Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the car market and how we might soon be flooded with affordable cars in the very near future. Before getting to this video though, I do want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Nick that works at the Southtown Imports here in Utah. Now the reason I'm talking with Nick is he has a very interesting perspective within the car market because he not only sells affordable cars, i.e. the Mitsubishi product, but he also sells a bunch of Highlines because of the store that he works at. So he gets to work with both types of clientele, the ones that are buying really expensive cars and the ones that are buying really affordable cars. So again, it'll be interesting to see what's happening from his perspective. Shout out to him. So if you're looking for a new Mitsubishi, then reach out and ask for him. And then if you're looking also for a new cool car like, I don't know, a Wrangler 392, also ask for him. Let's get into the video. Also, quick heads up, the microphone's gonna be faced towards Nick and not me, so you guys are probably gonna hear my voice is like slightly like muffled, but then Nick's voice will hopefully come through properly. If not, I guess we'll have to figure something out. But anyways, hello Nick, and this is your time to give yourself like a shameless plug, I suppose, in today's video.
Hey guys, Nick with Southtown Mitsubishi here. As you can see, this is our store. This is where I've been for the past 2 years, and it's been great. If you need a car, come see me.
There you go. Okay, so the reason that I wanted to talk to you is because you happen to sell fairly like affordable, inexpensive cars, a lot of the new Mitsubishi product, and then you also have like used stuff that's like $15,000 right now or below as well. And so on top of selling that, you also sell like a bunch of Highline cars. What have you seen with both of the markets?
Yes, we do. We've got Teslas, Mercedes Sprinter vans, 392 Jeeps, AT4s, all the new Mitsubishi stuff, and we also have affordable stuff. And one of the big things I've been noticing is that everyone's been trading in their affordable cars and getting either new or something a little nicer, getting them a little upgrade. And with that being said, we're getting tons of used inventory and stuff that's under $25,000.
Now the other question I want to ask you that we kind of like talked about a little bit earlier, have you noticed that people are more concerned about reliability and dependability now rather than they were like a year or so ago?
Yes, they are, and that's why they're going new, because with the new Mitsubishis at least, you get a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty on the drivetrain and a 5-year comprehensive warranty that covers pretty much everything bumper to bumper besides things that wear. And a lot of people are really liking that, knowing that they're covered for that amount of time and not having to deal with their old car they're trading in that's out of warranty and prone to break down soon. And
then the last question that I have for you before I guess we go to my segment. There's some loud cars out here. The audio is going to be horrible, but this is a Ben Hardy video. Anyways, so do you foresee this lot being filled with more like affordable cars in the near future because of what people are demanding, or do you think it's still going to be pretty split where you've got like Highlines like this and then some affordable cars as well?
I think we're going to have a lot of affordable stuff here in the near future, especially with the new Outlander PHEV coming out. Everybody wants a plug-in hybrid, something that's good on fuel, that's going to get 75 miles a gallon, and we got a lot of deposits on those of people trading in their old cars that aren't hybrids and getting into the new PHEVs. So I think we're going to be having a lot of used cars here soon, and it's going to be a lot full of used cars instead of new.
There you go, people. There you go. Now let's get to my segment. Again, shout out to Nick for being such a champ because I basically just shoved a camera in front of his face and told him to talk or else. No, I'm just kidding. But if you guys want to see more short interviews with different people that work at dealerships, then let me know and I can kind of just integrate those into these videos to just, you know, let you guys see things from a different perspective other than the Ben Hardy perspective. But anyways, let's dive a little bit deeper into this affordable car topic. This definitely shows a huge shift within the automotive industry because last year everyone was just diving in and buying everything because there was a lot of FOMO, right? It felt like money was growing on trees and there were so many cool releases and those cool releases weren't being built in large quantities, and so people were just jumping on and just paying way too much money for vehicles because they thought if they didn't buy then they would never have a chance to buy the vehicle. And again, when people feel rich, they want to flex to the world. It's just human nature. Whereas this year, everyone is tightening a massive amount. There's a lot of economic uncertainty, and on top of that, right, the car market has declined a pretty large margin, and so people are just they're freaked out. And so what's happening now is people don't really want to dive in and spend big money on cars, and on top of not wanting to spend big money, they definitely don't want to buy cars they don't perceive as reliable, because if the economy continues to get worse, then they want to make sure they have good, solid, reliable transportation that's going to be able to get them from A to B without them having to worry about it breaking down and they can't afford the repairs, right? And that's why you're seeing a lot of people flee towards these Asian automakers, because not only do they have product that is more affordable than a lot of other automakers, they also have product that's perceived as more reliable and more dependable overall. I mean, if we look at two different, like I'm just going to mention some automakers that have, relatively affordable cars. Toyota, Volkswagen, right? What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of Toyota? Dependability, reliability. What's the first thing you think that comes to mind when you think of Volkswagen, right? Like, it's pretty straightforward. And again, you can go look up the ratings as well. And so even automakers that have cars that compete with these, Asian automakers from a price perspective, right now, since they aren't perceived as reliable, people aren't really jumping on the bandwagon. And you can see this happening in real time. So right now, if you go into a dealership that is the franchise of an Asian automaker, you're probably not going to see any new inventory on the lot. And on top of that, you're probably going to have to get on a waiting list even to get basic vehicles. And then if you go to a franchise of an American automaker, you're probably going to see vehicles on the lot, and wait times to get a new vehicle are probably not going to be too terrible. And again, this case-by-case basis. We'll talk about that in a second. And then if you go to a dealership that's a franchise of like a European automaker, same thing. You're probably going to see some vehicles on the lot, and the wait times, again, depending on the product, could not be too terrible. Now, again, like I said, there are going to be some exceptions. A lot of specialty product across the board are still in really high demand because wealthier people still feel really rich because, well, first off, they are really rich, but you don't have to be rich to feel rich. Like if you feel like the money's going to keep coming in and that, vehicles in general are relatively affordable, then you're going to be more willing to spend money. And again, so these people that have money, they still feel like they have a lot of money, and so they're going out and just buying up again all these specialty cars like crazy. And so you kind of have this interesting situation where on the bottom end of things, really affordable cars are getting bought up like crazy, and then more expensive cars are still getting bought up like crazy, but then cars in the middle are just starting to sit. And again, it makes complete sense when you look at the different demographics that buy these different cars, because with high-end cars, right, you typically have people that have higher incomes that are purchasing these cars, and when they can no longer afford to purchase those cars, then they'll kind of dip down into the middle of the line price segment. And then you have the less expensive cars where basically people that aren't making a lot of money, they're always going to be buying those cars because that's all they can afford. And maybe if times are a little bit better, they might jump up into the middle segment a little bit. And that's kind of what we saw last year. That's why everything was selling out. But once you have things start to pull back a little bit, then you have the people that are always buying from the inexpensive segment because that's all they can afford. And now you have people from the middle segment starting to buy from the inexpensive segment because they feel like that's all they're going to be able to afford in the near future. And so it's kind of like a positive feedback loop. But instead of people going and purchasing more and more expensive cars like what was happening last year, now people are going and purchasing less and less expensive cars. Another interesting trend that I was talking to Nick about is the fact that a lot of people purchasing these less expensive cars are paying cash right now, whereas in the past, typically those cars were still financed just like every other car because, again, the typical buyer for these cars barely had any money to their name, and so they couldn't go and pay cash for a car, but they had okay enough credit that they could get approved on the car and then have a loan on it. But what's happening now is, like I said, you have these people that are typically purchasing cars that are in the middle range from a price perspective that are now purchasing these less expensive cars because they feel like that's all they're going to be able to afford. And so let's talk about what this is actually doing to the market. So first off, what you're seeing is, again, with the high-line cars, the more expensive cars, depending on what it is, some stuff is in demand, but in general, demand is starting to diminish a little bit because, like I said, there's enough people that still feel like they're rich that they are purchasing those cars, but there's enough people that are pulling back because they don't feel so rich anymore and they're starting to purchase cars kind of in the middle of the line at this point. And so you are seeing some demand destruction, and so pricing is definitely going to start coming down when it comes to more expensive cars. Now, if you look at cars that are the bulk of what people purchase, again, middle of the line cars, this is the area where the most amount of demand seems to be pulling back because, again, it's the largest group, and this group of people doesn't feel like they're going to be able to afford these cars anymore. And so, again, they're jumping into the lower down price segment. And so what you're really seeing here is you're seeing the smallest group of buyers, which is the highline buyers, kind of diving into the middle of the line cars, and then you see the largest group of buyers, which is the middle of the line buyers, diving into the less expensive cars. which in the short term is actually driving up prices on less expensive cars. That being said, for the first time in like the last 2 years, it seems, I'm starting to see some used cars pop up that are under $20,000 and under 100,000 miles. That didn't seem like it was a thing for about a year and a half. If you basically had a car that was under 100,000 miles, it didn't matter what it was, then it was at least like $20,000 or more, because again, it was transportation. Everyone was like freaked out. Whereas now, if it's just like a regular commuter car, or it's something that's just not particularly exciting, just think like small sedan, probably a CVT transmission and a little 4-cylinder. These cars are starting to somewhat become more affordable. Again, that being said though, it looks like they're starting to get bought up at a much quicker rate again, and so that is probably going to drive up prices in the very near future. So even though prices have now fallen down to a more affordable rate, it looks like they're going to jump back up because, again, now you have people flooding in to this market. Now let's talk about how you can use this information as a buyer to basically get you a better deal. So if you're looking in the more highline market, then I think that now is still a time to wait unless you're willing to pay a slight price premium, because again, there's still enough demand in that segment that if it's a special enough car, it's going to go for a lot of money. And so just understand, you got to pay to play in that segment still at this point. Now, if you're looking to purchase a car in the kind of like average price segment, then what you need to know is that inventories are starting to build up. And so you actually do have some negotiating power in this particular car segment, because again, what you have is, some demand starting to increase from people that typically purchase highlines, but a lot of demand leaving from this segment into those people that are purchasing the less expensive cars. So with these vehicles, you can probably get the best deal right now in that particular segment. Now, if you're looking to purchase a less expensive car, then now is probably the time to buy, and you're going to want to pay cash again because interest rates are really high. And so if you happen to have enough cash on hand to pay for the car in full, that's probably going to be the best route to go, so that you're not having to pay 6, 7, 8, whatever percent APR per year because of the interest rate increase. And like I said, demand seems to be increasing day by day. And so if it's a new car, right, if you can get on a waiting list now so you can lock in a lower price, I think that's going to be the route to go. If you're looking for a used one, again, they're starting to pop up, but I am seeing that they're not really lasting all that long because, again, there's more and more people purchasing from it. And so I'm not saying just like, oh, hey, go out and just throw money at cars and whatever. But what I am saying is that understand that this part of the market is probably the most volatile because of the influx of people. And so I wouldn't expect the prices to stay low for very long, but we're just going to have to kind of see how things play out. With that being said, that's going to sum things up for today's video. Hopefully this helps you guys out. And as I, do more research and find more information, I will continue to make more of these. So if you're not subscribed already, recommend subscribing, and I'll see you.